Hey guys, so today we are going to talk about project setups and your role and my desire to see if I can convince you to take your responsibility as a fellow contributor to a project. So let's get into it. Now, let's start off by simply stating something that I hope we can all agree on. Most of us like things to be comfortable. We like things to be easy sometimes. It's nice to have comfortable homes and tools and all this good stuff. And you know, programmers are no exceptions. You have your favorite editor. You have your favorite plugins. Maybe you have an IDE. You have your favorite macros and key bindings. All that good stuff. You should have these things because you're worth it. You really are. You work hard. You deserve these things. But you see, there's a problem where I think we kind of need to address this. And that problem comes when you start to add your own personal preferences into the project. See, I'm okay with you having your own thing and you doing your own thing if it doesn't affect the thing that I have to do or work with. You see, yesterday I was talking to one of my coworkers. We have an implementation that has to do, where basically we're in the situation where we have it's basically just an implementation of translations. And the way that it's implemented is, let's just call it a little bit obscure. The structure is fairly simple, where you have a namespace, you declare a namespace, and you have this loader file that traverses the file system, grabs all the translation files, builds up an object, and depending on your context, it's going to load the correct translations. Now, my coworker he's tasked with implementing the same sort of functionality, but for money values and being able to format different types of money, basically US dollars, pounds, etc., etc. He asks me over, tells me, these are my options for how to solve this problem. This is my favorite option. He shows me this option, and basically what he wants to do is to work on the same type of idea, that you have a automated system that kind of just knows which context you're in, and then through a string value you basically just declare what type of formatting you want with a label. Think that it's basically a factory pattern, if you're familiar with that. And then he's added his own plugins and he built his own tool to kind of load things up in a very nice way, just the way he likes it. And so he shows me his solution, and I say, he just asked me, how do you feel about this, Frederick? I can see the glimmer in his eye. He's so happy about this. And I look at him and I say, dude, can we talk about this? And his face just drops and he's like, oh, okay, sure, let's talk about it. And then I try to explain to him that, you see, from my perspective, it's very difficult for me, because to him, as I try to explain to him, all of these fancy tools and the stuff that he's added makes a lot of sense. Since he's the implementer of the solution, it makes perfect sense to him because he understands his own code. The issue is that now he's added an implementation that does something somewhere in the project and magically makes everything else work. But he's the only person who knows how it works, because the solution is fairly complicated. And he kind of goes, well, can't I just educate people? Yeah, you could, absolutely. I mean, there's nothing stopping you from going and talking to everybody here, putting up some documentation and spreading the knowledge and doing all that stuff. You could do that. That's great. But you see, the issue is that your mindset has been that we should build things your way because you want it to work that way, and then we should educate everybody else how to use your way. instead of having the mindset that you should build it easily. You should build it in a way that feels intuitive to everybody using it. And that's a mistake, in my opinion. So I explained to him, instead of having this magical like loader and all of that stuff, why not just have a function? A simple function that states that, hey, I want this money value, this number, to be formatted in this locale, Swedish, English, etc., etc. And he says, oh, but that's so explicit and I have to like include it everywhere. Yeah, and I said, that's perfect. It is explicit, because if it's explicit, that means that when I come here and I have no idea that all this magic that you are, like the stuff that you've built is a problem, because now if anything goes wrong with your implementation, you can't read, I have to know that you've done this. But with the function, simple function, same thing, yes, you have to include it somewhere. You have to explicitly import it. But it's easy to understand. It fits everybody. It's something that even a complete junior can come in and understand. That's the beauty of it. You see, guys, when you are working in your own world, in other words, you have your own tools and so forth, that's great. Have your own tools. It's very much the same thing as having your own car. If you have your own car, you set it up all nicely, you adjust the seats, you set everything just so. But remember how it feels to come and borrow somebody else's car and try to drive somebody else's car. Now you can probably do that, but it doesn't really feel right, because the car is adjusted for another human being. That's exactly the same sort of issue I'm talking about here. It's okay to use your own tools. It's okay to have your own solutions, as long as it doesn't affect everybody around you. But when you are making decisions on behalf of the project, when you are adding plugins or libraries or dependencies, or you're making an implementation that is supposed to be better, or that everybody's going to be able to use, etc., etc., because that's exactly what this was about. He's building something that will literally affect all work related to these translations and money values for the rest of the company's history, like for as long as we have it. That's a big deal. That means that you cannot, in that situation, you cannot and you should not use the same mentality you use for your own tool suites. Try to think about the big picture. Try to think about what's best and easiest for everybody, and have a great day.